Briefly, we'll talk about March Madness. Obviously, we can sit here and break it down all day. We don't have time for that. The one seeds are Arizona, Michigan, Florida, and Duke. I think probably one of those four teams is probably going to win it. I know we had this conversation last year about the whole Cinderella run, and our Cinderella run's still going to happen now with NIL. I mean, we'll talk about the East, the breakdown here I have of all the games. I have for the bracket, I have Duke over TCU. I have St. John's over I have St. John's, Kansas, South Florida, Michigan, Michigan State here. So I want to pull up the actual bracket for you guys. I'll give you guys my bracket breakdown. I have Duke over Siena. I have Duke over TCU. I have TCU over Ohio State. I have St. John's over Northern Iowa. I have Kansas over Cal Baptist. I have Louisville over USF. I know a lot of people are picking USF, but I like Louisville and what they've been able to do this year. The ACC has been great. You have Michigan State over North Dakota. I've got UCLA over USF. I have UConn over Furman. I have Florida over the winner of the tonight's game. Clemson over Iowa. I know the Big Ten has been great, but I like the way Clemson played in the ACC tournament. I have Vanderbilt over McNeese. I like the way Vandy's played. They just went to the SEC championship and they beat my Florida Gators. And then I have Nebraska over Troy. I have North Carolina over VCU. I think they can get it done even without Caleb Wilson. I don't have a whole lot of stock and a whole lot of faith into VCU. Then I have Illinois over Penn. I know maybe some people are picking an upset there. I've got Illinois over Penn. I love the Big Ten, obviously. And then I have St. Mary's over A&M. As an SEC guy, I don't trust A&M. St. Mary's is always good when it comes to the March Madness tournament. Anything can happen, guys. These are just my predictions. Houston over Idaho, and then we move into the round of 32. I have Duke over TCU. I don't think TCU has the firepower to keep up with Duke. And then we have I have St. John's matching up with Kansas. Now this is going to be a big game. Rick Pitino, Bill Self, a lot of stock into Darren Peterson. St. John's is maybe should have not been a 5 seed. Maybe they were robbed. That's a whole nother conversation. But I'm going with St. John's over Kansas. I think the Darren Peterson end comes to a run. I think he's really checked out. I love Bill Self. He's a great coach, but I think St. John's and Rick Pitino get it done. Then you move on to Louisville and Michigan State. This is a dogfight type of game, but there's one guy you don't want to bet against in March Madness or March in general is Tom Izzo. He's been exceptional his entire time there. Then you move on to UCLA and UConn, Mick Cronin and Danny Hurley. UConn could easily win this tournament. They could easily win it all. Then you move on there. You go UConn and Michigan State, and then UConn and Michigan State. And then I picked UConn there. And then we go back up top and we have Duke and St. John's. I know a lot of people are picking St. John's, but I got to roll with Duke. I think there's too much firepower on that team. I love Rick Pitino, John Shire, and Duke got to the Final Four last year. Cam Boozer wills this team past St. John's. I think it'll be a good game, but I got Duke winning that game. Then we got to move to the other side of the bracket in the West. Well, you got Arizona and Long Island. I got Arizona. Villanova, Utah State. I got Villanova. Wisconsin and High Point. I got Wisconsin. Arkansas, Hawaii. I got Arkansas. I love Darius Acuff Jr. Could arguably be the best player in college basketball this year, if you want to debate that. Then you have BYU and Texas. I love DeBansa and Richie Saunders. I think they get that done. Gonzaga and Kennesaw State. Mark Few is a great coach. I can't bet against Mark Few. That's a lot of these things comes down to coaching in this tournament. I know Cinderellas and who's hot and who's not, but hard to bet against good coaching. Then you go to Miami and Missouri. Missouri beat Florida earlier this year. They've been good in the SEC, but I like Miami to go on maybe a short little run in this tournament. They've proved a lot of people wrong this year. And then you move on to Purdue and Queens. Purdue just won the Big Ten championship there with Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer. Matt Painter's a pretty darn good coach. I think they easily cruise past that one there. Well, and you got Michigan and Howard. I got Michigan over Howard. Georgia, St. Louis. I don't like Mike White, but the SEC has been good this year. I guess it could be an upset, but I'm going with Georgia there. You got Texas Tech and Akron. Obviously, I know Texas Tech lost their best player. I forget his name. Oh my gosh. Is it Jacob Toppin? Pretty sure they lost Toppin. He tore his ACL. I don't have enough faith in the Zips. I got Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech can get it done. I don't think they're going to go very far, but I think they get past the first round. Then you go Alabama Hofstra. Obviously, I know Alabama is player Aiden Holloway is dealing with some stuff off the court. I still think Alabama and Nate Oates can get this done. Then you go to Tennessee versus the winner of Miami, Ohio, and SMU. I think Tennessee wins this game. Not a big fan of Rick Barnes, but I think they get this done and for the first round. Then you got Virginia and Wright State. I love the way Virginia just played in the ACC tournament, so I'm going with Virginia there. And you got Kentucky and Santa Clara, obviously, Mark Pope. And Kentucky could be a sleeper in this tournament. They've got a lot of firepower. They play really well together as a team. They weren't able to beat Florida this year, but that's not saying much. Florida's arguably the best team in the country. Then you got Iowa State and Tennessee State. I got Iowa State. Then you move on to the next round. I got Iowa State over Kentucky. And then I got Virginia, Tennessee. I got Virginia over Tennessee. Then Bama over Texas Tech. And then Michigan, Georgia. I think Michigan cruises in there. They move on to the next round. Then you got Miami, Purdue. I got Purdue winning that. I think that Purdue gets that one done. And then you got BYU, Gonzaga. I got BYU upsetting Gonzaga. I know people may think that's crazy, but I like AJ Devanza. I know maybe experience comes into play. Could very well see Gonzaga winning this game. I wouldn't shock me one bit. Then you got Arkansas, Wisconsin. That'll be a great game there. I've got Arkansas over Wisconsin. Calipari, I think they can make a nice little run. Arizona, Villanova, I got Arizona. Then you get Arizona, Arkansas. I've got Arizona over Arkansas. Arizona over Purdue because Purdue beats BYU. And then you go down to Michigan, Alabama. I've got Michigan over Alabama. Dusty May is a great coach. Michigan, of course, they're a 1 seed for a reason. I know they lost the Big Ten championship, but that's another conversation. Michigan over Iowa State after Iowa State beats Virginia. And then you move on to the Sweet 16. We covered that. Elite 8, you got I got Michigan over Iowa State, and then I got Michigan going to the Final Four. And then we go back to the other side of the bracket. We got Florida over Clemson in the Sweet 16. We already said UConn over UCLA. Then Vanderbilt over Nebraska. Then Florida over Vandy. And then Florida matches up against Houston. That's going to be a battle there. I'm not betting against the Gators, but they're going to be having a tough road to go into Houston to play them. And then you go to Duke, UConn. Oh my gosh, John Shire and Danny Hurley. Can we just get this game already? Obviously, these are just my predictions, but man, I hope that we get this. But Duke over UConn. And then my Final Four is all 4-1 seeds. I know people, but that's no much fun. That's not much fun. I just think these 2 4-1 seeds are too good. I really do. I think either one of these 4 teams can win the tournament. I strongly think that. I really do. I can break it all down as we go on and continue through the tournament. Once we get past this weekend, we'll know more. But these are just my predictions. I got Duke, Florida, and then Arizona, Michigan. I got Arizona over Michigan in the Final Four. I got Florida over Duke. I think Florida gets their revenge on Duke from earlier this season when they were starting to play together and get to know each other more than anything. And I got Florida, Arizona. Arizona beat Florida in the opening night of college basketball. And I think Florida gets their revenge. And I think Florida goes back to back for the first time since the 06-07 year.